My name is Bert Seelman. I've been in the human performance field for over 40 years. During that time, I didn't seek just to get benefit for individuals from exercise, which I knew to be a stress and not a benefit, but actually a triggering device. I saw that the results were actually made from what a person ate prior to that stress of exercise, and then the rest and the time they had to recover and allow the responses of the body to really make a full response. So many people are misperceived about this, but during this time I've worked on many different phases of health. And I'm here today with Tom Niland of Whitesboro, Texas, who met me not just over the internet, but never met me actually in person and worked a program with me. When I met Tom informed me that he had been a previously found to be a type 2 diabetic, had high blood pressure, sleep apnea, and other various complaints. And before he had met me, he had already been a victim of amputation, which could have been avoided. Not that everyone will be avoiding amputation, because many will not take the responsibility to do what they need to keep these things from happening. But in Tom's case, he did, and I started to work with Tom and another friend, and I'll let him tell you a little bit about his story. Go ahead, Tom.
That I was a diabetic for approximately 15 years, had complications from that. At the time that I had called, little to my not knowing at the time, I had an infection in my left foot, third metatarsal. Then when I went to the doctors, they wanted to amputate my front of my foot and possibly higher up on the leg. The doctor wanted to amputate the forefront of my foot, and he said possibly that it could go higher up my leg. I told him that amputation was not in my vocabulary. Bert, even when I was in the hospital, spoke to the doctor. The doctor was unreceptive to Bert's suggestions, and I stuck with Bert's suggestions. The doctor would have been quite happy amputating my leg, possibly.
During that time when Tom called me, Tom had talked with me previous to going into the hospital, and we'd started to reduce his blood sugar levels quite rapidly, just with some dietary help. At that time, Tom had another friend who had stage 3 or 4 bladder cancer in his prostate and in his bladder, which also needed attention at the time. They were going to employ me to help them to work a couple of programs, but I gave them some general things to start because the time was imperative. At that time, I called Tom back and talked with him. He called me and was going in the course of getting back to me when they discovered the infection in his foot. When they found this infection in his foot and put him in the hospital, like he said, they wanted to amputate. I talked with the physician, and I informed the physician that I understood that most people did not and would not take positive action to literally help them to reduce the problems and complications that would come, but I assured him that Tom would. Tom had me speak with the doctor. We talked to the physician. We got him to avoid the possibility of taking the foot off and try the least resistance, which was to make the one metatarsal bone taken out, but it still required his having his foot split open. When he got the foot operated on and came back out of surgery, they had covered the wound, which ended up in what type of complications, Tom?
Further infection that bred underneath the skin, and then requiring a second hospitalization to require surgery to open it up and clean out the second infection.
So literally what they had done was made a mistake, correct, Tom?
Yes.
And during that time, Tom had to suffer another operation. And during the time that Tom was in the hospital, even the foods that Tom was given, and everyone should be aware of this, that the nutrition that he was given in the hospital was not appropriate. It was not adequate to sustain enough lean body mass to help his circulation, nor was it good for his blood sugar levels, correct? Your blood sugars were out of control in the hospital.
Correct. They had me on insulin.
Yes. So what we did was we started working with Tom. He started taking some drinks that had some herb teas, etc. in it. He started doing some active work in the hospital, actually moving his limbs to create circulation, to put oxygenation into the limbs, which they don't have you do. We gave Tom some supplementation, which he took. And I told Tom these were things that I would do for myself. Obviously, I'm not allowed to prescribe, so I told him the things that I would do if I were in his position. And what did you find, Tom, happened with that?
Well, I found the results to be incredible. When I was exercising in the hospital, the nurses came in and told me, you're going into arrhythmia, stop doing what you're doing, and just listen to the doctor.
If Tom had listened to the doctor, he literally would have lost his foot. The doctor, I'm sure, means well, but we also know that their information and their training is not always, shall we say, as problematic relieving as it should be, that they don't have the understanding of how things actually do work, being trained by Big Pharma's type of educational system. Tom, at that time, when he got out of the hospital the second time, we had him immediately start with 3 intensely light cardio sessions per day. We had him increase oxygenation factors for the blood. We had him combine his food in exactly correct chemical ways. And I didn't know this at the time, but Tom was actually testing me. Not only did he test his blood sugar, he tested his oxygenation saturation levels, his blood pressure. He took his pulse rate, his working pulse rate, his body weight. He also took sleep studies because of his apnea and oxygen saturation. And what did you find with those tests, Tom?
I found that they kept improving and still improving to this day.
And Tom, if you would tell people just how radically was that type of recovery, what did the nurses have to say, what did they notice, and what did you notice compared to the first time you'd been in the hospital?
Well, the first time I was in the hospital, there was the uncertainty because of the infection. Then on the second time when I went in, I knew that there was quite a change in my body, and also they didn't expect my wound to heal, but little did they know, 2 weeks to the day from being released, my wound was healed. And the wound nurse that saw me in my home could not believe that I had healed faster than a non-diabetic.
Now, one of the things that's unique about Tom is that he had had previous operation before meeting me, and he had actually had hyperbaric treatments, correct?
Correct.
And Tom has also used Rife, which we know that the government has taken out of the hands of the public because it is so effective. So he has also been diagnosed by SCIO biofeedback, which is intensely accurate. He also had the Rife, the SCIO, and the hyperbaric. And how did the nutritional plan and things that we've taught you to do for yourself, now how effective were they compared to the others?
As compared to the first surgery where I had hyperbaric treatments, this time, just with Bert's nutritional program, I healed faster than when I had hyperbaric treatments.
Yes. And how did this also, you had a SCIO evaluation. Could you talk about that, please?
Yes. 6 months previous, I had a SCIO evaluation, which was approximately 8 pages of problem areas with my health. I had one performed just a week ago, and it is less than a page long now.
I understand. Thank you, Tom. And another thing, Tom, what have you learned? What have you seen as possibilities in your own words? And if you talk a little bit about how much we needed to actually communicate and how fast we were adjusting things.
Okay. I see it very important, the whole total program, nutrition, rest, and cardio.
As far as the program, Tom, how do you see it as being a lifestyle and something that you can do for the rest of your life?
Yes, it is a workable lifestyle that I can do that for the rest of my life, and I can surely say that other people can do it as long as they choose to do that.
So, Tom, would you say that when someone tells you, gives you the prognosis, you're going to be a diabetic for life, you're going to have these problems, and there's no way to take this or come off of medications, what would you have to say about that?
I say it's an outright lie.
So you feel then that what people are doing is they're being misled into the actual areas of believing that they need to sustain themselves with these medications rather than actually get a complete healing through their dietary program?
Yes.
Okay, and how well is your foot performing now, and have you actually been involved in exercise in the gym since you've gotten out, and what have you learned there according to what my book has instructed and so on?
I've been exercising daily. I see the improvements on a daily basis, and as far as the book, everything is right on the money. It does turn the fitness world upside down, but it works.
When you went to the gym and you've read the book, what could you tell people about the book and what you were able to observe before you met me? And now that you've met me, what would you say? And you've actually had the experience here.
What I've noticed in the gym, as far as Bert's program, everybody has it wrong. And I noticed that even the personal trainers that I've seen in the gyms, they do it all wrong as compared to Bert's methods.
Now, these methods that I've taught in the book, they seem to be different, but do you see how they, what would you say about the sequence and the importance of sequencing things and getting the diet in place first and then the exercise and the rest? How do you see that?
Yes, I see that as very important. It's very critical in the program, and without the proper sequence, the system wouldn't work.
Right. Now, so with the time and effort that you spend in this, how do you see your future, Tom, as having to deal with doctors on a regular basis or having to deal with your diabetes again or anything? What would you say to anyone out there who is considering wanting to get themselves taken care of and learn a lifestyle? Would you say that this is an option?
This is a viable option, and I see myself in the future, the further I can stay away from a doctor, the better my health is going to be.
I see. And do you feel that you've got the control of your health now?
Yes, I do now.
And do you see it affecting your family and friends in any way?
Yes, friends of mine, they all see the results, and they want to participate in the program. My 11-year-old son is in the program.
So this is what people need to know, that diabetes can be handled. It can be beaten. The symptoms can be reversed. So what I would say to an individual is this: if you want to take your health back, if you want control, if you want to know how your body works, read the book that I've produced. It's called The Great Fitness Fraud, 300 Million Victims and One Program for Your Defense. This book will give you the basic information and sequence to get the results that other programs have always promised, but what we have always delivered for over 40 years. So don't be taken. Don't believe anything that's going to take your hope away. Hope is there for each and every person. Another thing that people need to understand is this. This is one of the most critical points I can put across to the public. That there is no such thing as an incurable or untreatable disease state. Doctors today work with the physical and mental aspects of a human being, but until they deal with the spirit and the spirit force, which we all should know comes from a much higher power, which I call God, that spirit lives in the body, in the blood, and that's the one thing they can't take out, is the blood out of the body and still remain with life. But when we start to treat the spiritual aspects of a person, when they are willing to have forgiveness and they're willing to understand that until they have forgiveness, that their body cannot operate on a true and viable, functional level, there will be always uncurable diseases. But if you're willing to treat the spirit of a human being, everything is curable. So don't allow someone to take your hope away. Don't allow them to try and take your understanding away that there's nothing out there. There is. Keep searching. Keep looking. Take care of your health. You owe it to yourself and you owe it to your loved ones. Thank you.